So let's start with the topic for today. And the topic for today that I want to talk about is how do we balance sensitivity and authenticity? And this is particularly, I think, relevant for people who are in the realm of personal growth and spirituality, because most people who come to personal growth and who come to spirituality are supposedly sensitive people. By sensitive, I mean people who are sensitive to their surroundings, people who are sensitive to the needs of people around them. Um, Perhaps, you can call them empathetic people also. So, one of the problems of being sensitive and empathetic towards others is sometimes that sensitivity and empathy works against you. And whatever I'm sharing, I'm also sharing from my own personal experience. Because when you're sensitive, when you're empathetic, when you are highly attuned to other people's energies, then you tend to adapt yourself more often than not to the needs of others. You try to fulfill the needs of others. You give more space to other people. Mm, and especially, even as I think children, especially people, I think children who are sensitive children tend to adapt. Maybe they don't rebel so much, but they adapt more to the system or whatever the system wants them to do. And and I've seen this, like I've known people who sort of, want to be the perfect student, then want to be the perfect wife, they want to be the perfect mother, they want to be the perfect, so they're trying to play these roles to perfection, the perfect daughter or perfect son or perfect husband, whatever it is. And it's not to do with being male or female. I think this, some people generally have this nature of being very attuned, very sensitive to the needs of others. And while I think it's a good quality, because it's good to be sensitive to the needs of others, it's really good, especially in a relationship, when you know what the other person's needs are, and then you can sense those needs and you can help to fulfill those needs. But the problem of being sensitive, I think that's really perhaps could be the title to this session. The problem of being sensitive. And the problem of being sensitive is that uh, most sensitive people, especially when they start their journey, their own evolution, are not in touch with their own feelings and their own needs, because they are so wanting to uh, fulfill the needs of others. They want to be, they want to get the approval of others. They want to be liked by others. They want to be appreciated by others. So they end up doing things which will make others feel good rather than they feeling good. So it's a very unusual experience. Sensitive people often feel good by making others feel good. This is the tragedy of sensitive people, that when they do things for others and the others feel good, then sensitive people feel good. Now, which is which is good in a way, because you are it helps to build relationship. But when you sort of fulfill the needs of others at the cost of your own needs, then it becomes counterproductive. Then it becomes harmful for your own well-being. Like, for example, and then you tend to always sort of give the benefit of doubt more and more to the other person. Like, for example, maybe somebody is coming late. Maybe, we'll say, like, fine, it's okay, it happens once in a while. You wait for that person. Or for that matter, let's say somebody is ignoring you, then you choose to be patient with that person. You're not liking it, but then you are being patient with that person. Or for that matter, let's say somebody is being rude to you, then you will probably give the person the benefit of doubt. Okay, maybe that person is having a bad day or whatever. But the point I'm trying to say is sensitive people have difficulty in acknowledging what they're feeling, getting in touch with what they're feeling, and also acknowledging what their own need is, because they are so attuned to other people's need that their own authenticity, in the sense what they are feeling, what they need, gets sidelined or suppressed because they are so in trying to fulfill others' needs. And this can continue for a long period of time. Like personally, for me, I think right till my 30s, I think I didn't even realize that, I had this thing of constantly wanting approval of others, constantly wanting to please others, constantly trying to be in the good books of others, and the whole process not in touch with what my authenticity, what my feelings are, what my own needs are, because I'm always trying to um, look at seeing what the other person, it's like being in the other person's shoes more than being in your own shoes. And then a time comes, and this quite often happens when the whole volcano bursts. And I've seen this quite often in it has happened in my own experience, and it's happened, I've known other people, that at some point of time you can't take this trying to be this nice person, this sensitive person, this um, and then whatever has been suppressed, maybe somebody is taking too much advantage of you, maybe somebody is you've reached that point of saturation that you cannot be in a sort of a toxic relationship anymore, then the whole thing bursts. And then comes a lot of anger and all the suppressed emotions uh, that were that were suppressed in the need to be nice and good and sensitive and empathetic. Then they just sort of burst like a volcano, and then there is a lot of blame and judgment, and essentially blaming people that, okay, because that person didn't fulfill my need, that person didn't do fair to me, that person. But essentially the realization doesn't happen at this level, that because of our own sensitivity, because of our own need of approval, for our own need to be considered good in others books, we we never acknowledged our own needs, we never acknowledged our own feelings. And that's what happens. And then when the volcano bursts, uh, and then blame happens. So you know this person didn't do right or whatever, and that you can be in that state of resentment, anger, blame, um, angst for a long period of time, until one realizes that yes, what I'm feeling is important, what my needs are also important, and I need to learn to express my needs, especially when I'm in a relationship. And also I need to realize that yes, expressing my needs makes me vulnerable. Also the fact that if my needs are not met, then that also makes me more vulnerable. And then also being able to draw boundaries, like if my needs are not being met, then what do I need to do? Then where do I draw the boundary in a relationship? Like supposing you have a need to for example, you need for communication, or you have a need for um, you know authenticity, a warmth in in a relationship, and that need is not being met, then you express your need, that this need of mine is not being met, or this is what will make me feel good in this relationship. And if that need is constantly not being met, then perhaps one needs to draw boundaries, and one needs to uh, see what needs one needs to do in that relationship, because you can't keep barking up the tree and your needs are not being met, and then uh, continue to uh, hope, want. um, Sometimes it's just good enough to realize that, okay, in this relationship these emotional needs are not going to be met, and then I need to just simply draw boundaries, or I need to restrict my engagement in this relationship, or restrict my emotional investment in this relationship, rather than then find fault with somebody else or find fault with your own self. I think it's important to just simply acknowledge that, yes, as a human being, I have certain emotional needs, and these emotional needs are important for me, for my well-being. And especially in a relationship, that these emotional needs in a relationship, it's always a matter of give and take. It can't be just one way process. So um, so yes, expression, communication is important, and if sometimes the energies don't match, then it's good to just simply draw boundaries. So it's very important to balance this need to be sensitive towards others. At the same time, one has to be sensitive towards their own self. And especially, I think, when people are in this realm of spirituality, personal growth, people are really very kind and generous and empathetic towards others, but they are very hard and unforgiving towards their own self. They may be very compassionate to others, but more very judgmental about their own selves. So I think that's really an important area that one needs to find a balance. So I think that's really what I wanted to talk about in today's session, and it's just short. I really don't feel the need to really add anything more, but I think it's really important. And there is this term. Mm, while I don't like labels, to label people, but there is a term called empath and there's a term called narcissist. And there's this relationship between narcissist and empath, and which is quite toxic. A person who has this narcissistic behavior is very self-absorbed. He's totally unaware of the other person's needs, or is unaware of the other person's reality, or what the other person. And the empath is overly attuned to the other person's need, and the overly sensitive to the other person's needs. And when the connection happens between these two kind of personalities, then um, it's very toxic. So I'm just giving an example of how, especially if you're very sensitive, then you can get into relationships where the other person is totally not um, fulfilling your needs, or not sensitive to your needs, but totally absorbed, and you are more and more giving of yourself in that relationship, and you don't get anything in return, yeah. Until over a period of time you realize that this relationship is not healthy for me, and then you cut cords. The whole world is saying, no, you should not be sensitive, or you're wasting your sensitivity. And I think what happens is that either we go to the other side, we become very hard and very resentful, or we overcompensate and we try to become oversensitive to get the approval of others. But I think it's important to be sensitive. Yes, I think it's the world really needs sensitivity, and but at the same time, sensitivity has to also be for your own self, and it cannot just be for other people. If someone is coming late, then you need to acknowledge my time is also equally important. Or if someone is ignoring you, then perhaps you need to spend less time with the person. Or if someone is um, behaving disrespectfully to you, or cold or indifferent to you, then you need to draw your boundaries. Then, rather than continue to stretch yourself, and then feel like, oh, I'm not getting appreciation, or I'm not feeling good. because you don't feel like being in spaces where you don't get that reciprocation of respect, warmth, acknowledgement, attention. I mean, that's what relationships are built on, no? So that's how it is. Because earlier, I used to feel that, oh, I'm doing, I know other people should be sensitive towards me, other people should be understanding of my needs and all that. And then I realized, no, other people don't have to, are not responsible for meeting my needs.
Mm.
Only I am responsible for meeting my needs. Other people are responsible for meeting their needs. If two people connect and their needs, and and there's a connection, and if there is a ease in relating, then that's good. But if your needs are not being met in a relationship or in a relating, then perhaps you need to ask yourself, what are you doing in that relationship, or what friendship, or you need to question your own expectations that, I need to get this. And then that's about it. So if it's really an important relationship, then a communication needs to happen. And if the communication doesn't work, then one needs to simply acknowledge your vulnerability, that your need is not being met, and draw your boundary. That's about it. But the other thing is, no, the problem with sensitive people is, sensitive people don't want to even acknowledge their needs. That they don't want to acknowledge their needs, and they will say, no, 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 that person didn't really mean this. Oh, that person is not like this. Oh, it's not so
Mm.
important. That's fine. Oh, I'll let go of it. It's not so important this time. Maybe, all these kind of rationalization happens, and then you want to let go. But it's important to say that, or the other thing is, another kind of a spiritual bypassing happens. No, no, um, spirituality is all about letting go and oneness, and
Mm.
some kind of spiritual mumbo jumbo or concept you will bring, but you don't acknowledge your needs. But you
Mm.
need to realize that, no, my needs are equally important, and I need to express it in a relationship which is important. And if it's
Yes.
not getting fulfilled, then I need to do something about it. And there's no point in continuing to be in a space, and or else, like, or you simply accept it. This is what the situation is. I can't change it. But why complain and crib and blame and get into drama? Express, communicate, and if it's working, well and good. If it's not, draw your boundary. If it's not even possible to draw your boundary, then accept your vulnerability. Period. That's it.
Mm.
What else can one do? Yeah, I think sometimes there's a term called hard love, which means
Oh,
sometimes uh, you have to
never heard.
draw strong
Mm.
boundaries. I think that's important. Yeah.
Huh?
Hard love is like a term in the sense, like a mother will tell a child, no, you're not going to get chocolate.
Mm.
You have to go to bed. That's hard love.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to have that.
Mm.
If you're soft love only, then all the time, then
Mm.
the the child will not grow. It needs both elements. So even setting boundaries, setting discipline is also a form of love. So I think the important thing is to balance sensitivity, because at the end of the day, I think we cannot change our naturalness. If your sensitivity is, if you have a natural sensitivity, then you have it. Like, just like in nature, you have a rose, you have a lily, you have a cactus, and each have their own disposition, so to speak. So one need not lose their sensitivity, but at the same time, one needs to balance their sensitivity with being authentic and realizing what my needs and my feelings are, and then balance the two while relating to someone. And if communication doesn't help, often communication is highly overrated, but if communication doesn't help, then one needs to simply draw boundaries. Then that's about it. And quite often, I think that's really what is needed. If communication doesn't help, then it's important to just draw boundaries. So that's it for today's session. And if you have anything to share, feel free to share in the comments. And let's end the session with a small spontaneous prayer. My dear higher self, help me to realize that my feelings and my needs are equally important as others' feelings and needs. Help me to acknowledge my sensitivity as a gift and not make it a weakness that I use to gain the approval of others. Help me to balance my own needs with the needs of others in all my relationships, close or far. Seek your grace and guidance to realize my true self. Om Shanti. Okay, so with that, we end today's session. I'll see you in the next session. Goodbye. God bless. Take care.